me? Okay. All right. Should I put it down? Nope, that's. Hello. Hi. Okay. Once we have the screen all set up, if you want to scan the QR code, it will pop up once we fix the screen. It's going to direct you to the website, and then from there you can register for our workshop. That way, when you register for the workshop, you'll be added to our database, and then from there, you'll get access to all the publications that we'll be sending you. And if you want, you can go straight to the copticedu.org website instead of waiting. If you go there, you'll find the under events, you'll find your church, and then you can also RSVP that way. Okay, looking for the remote. It's all about communication. Hi. There you go. That looks like it, yeah. Okay, so if you want, go ahead and scan that QR code. It should go straight to our webpage. If you want to just go to copticedu.org and you'll find your, I'll show you exactly what to do. So you go to copticedu.org. You'll see here under events. Under events, you'll see the Archangel Michael City Valley one. And then just go ahead and register there. Register. If you have, then awesome. I'm just making sure so then you have the publications, yeah. If those of you who just came in, we're fixing the screen so you were able to scan the QR code. Okay, let me go back. So let's see if it's fixed now. Guys, see if you can scan the QR code now.
Yeah.
All right. I'll wait one more minute and then we'll get started. All right. Well, thank you for joining. I have a good amount of you, parents and students. So thanks for joining. It should take about an hour and 15 minutes. I'll try my best to answer your questions at the end. If you have questions that are urgent, please just raise your hand and I will answer. So my name is Sandy Gabrielle. I am the Assistant Director Counselor for the Coptic Educational Foundation. I've been with them now for 5 years, going on pretty much on my 5th year. I work at Pepperdine as their Senior Academic Advisor, and I also have a little cake pop business on the side. So if you ever have an event, I love making cake pops. But to also get started, I want to see who's in the room as far as grades. And I know I have some parents, but if you do have kids in a specific grade level, just let me know. So any middle school students? Okay, just in case. But it's mainly for high school. Freshmen? Yes, okay. Sophomores? Okay. And juniors? And seniors. Oh, we have a senior in that. Hi, he's my favorite student, sorry. Awesome. Mark is in the room. We're working together with his college app, so, and the parent, right? Yes, I noticed you from Zoom. I'm like, wait, she looks familiar. Okay, awesome. So we'll be focusing all on every grade level then, just in case we don't want to miss anyone. But here are this is our agenda. We'll talk about services, and then we'll talk about our pathway to college. What does that look like? What are your tracks, different options that you could pursue? And then we'll go in detail with your requirements for each type of institution. And then we'll talk about financial aid and scholarships, what that looks like, and then kind of give it to you to ask any questions. All right. So with our CEF services, there's a lot of different populations that we focus on. We have our middle school, high school, college, and then now even our re-entry adults if they want to come back and work in the field. Our biggest support is these type of workshops. We do them in the fall, where we have our mentors. Ashley Robert is your mentor, and we tell them, hey, we have our schedule of workshops, and we want to go to the church and present one of these. It's either a college admission, a financial aid, or a personal statement workshop. And sometimes we even offer workshops on how to apply for grad school or even scholarships. Our biggest service too that we have is our scholarship that we provide every year. We try to select about 20 different students across the diocese. We give them a $1,000 scholarship towards any college expenses. And of course, it's a merit-based scholarship, so we definitely look at not just their grades, but we also want to see what they've been doing in their community. I think someone from your church received it a few years back, right? Yeah, Nicole. So we try our best to look at the pool. It's a selective process. We've been getting hundreds of applications, and we can only select 20. So keep that in mind as you're applying if you are a senior. So it's for you to be eligible, you would want to be a high school senior going to college, or a community college transfer going to a 4-year, or now we have the graduate school one. So we have 3 different scholarships, and we just added a new one for Egypt. We have some Egyptian students that are going to get funded as well. And if you haven't downloaded our app, we have the CF app, just in case you can get more notifications from us. This is our team. We have Sharif and his brother, so they're the co-founders of the organization. Myself, Catherine, our other counselor, you probably met her. Justina, our intern, and Manny in the back, she's our HR manager. Then we have Peter, he's our intern / kind of does anything for us really when we need it, more of like a project manager. And then we have Hanny, he's our social media dude, he does all that social media stuff. and marketing. A lot of the flyers that you see, he does that. So my first question to all of you is, why college? Why are we going to college? Or why are you here? Let's just start there. Do you have a career? Yes, exactly. To have some type of future established for yourself. What else? Anyone here for their parents because they asked them to be here? Or because you just need to go to college? Yeah. So that's the thing I always ask, just because we kind of have to set our mind with how we see college and, the motivation behind it. If I'm only going to college just to do one thing, that motivation might get kind of hindered or might be affected throughout your educational career. And for me, for example, my biggest reason was, let me give back to my parents, let me give back to them. But there were times where my parents really didn't understand what I was going through, and it was difficult. It was very difficult to explain to someone who didn't go through the education system here my struggles, my academic struggles at least. So with that being said, you really need to dig deep intrinsically as far as that motivation that will keep you going. Whatever that looks like for you, maybe you found it in high school or you're still trying to figure that out, but it's a passion that leads you to pick that career. So that's your why behind college. So we'll talk about pathways to college, and as you might know, there are different ways to get yourself to the college setting. You have the CHESP exam. Has anyone heard of the CHESP? Yep, right? There's that route, and we'll talk about it. Then you have the traditional route going from high school to the college, whether it's a private school, it's a public school, but it's a 4-year college. And then you have someone who's going straight to a community college and then it's going to transfer. And then just between picking from a public and a private, you also have Ivy Leagues. And those are a completely set of schools that if those are on your list, then we need to look at more into your profile, what that looks like. So there's a lot of different options when it comes to picking a school. It's just a matter of where do you want to start. And no route is better than the other. Nothing is going to give you a better degree or more money. It's really about what you do when you go to that school. We're looking at the 4-year timeline. We have freshman year, 10th, which is sophomore year, and then you have junior year, and then senior year. If you see the breakdown, there's a lot of great things you should be doing every year to prepare yourself for college. So if you're not there just yet, then look at the things that you need to start bridging those gaps, right? So for example, if you're a sophomore, you haven't explored your campuses, that's going to be huge, because how can you determine where you want to apply if you haven't been to the school? Is it based off friends that told you go to that school, or you saw a sibling go to that school, but you haven't actually physically arrived or went, put yourself in that setting? So when it comes to looking at this timeline, please really challenge yourself to see if you're not doing something on that list, then find a way to become that or become a leader within that. Another thing I'll emphasize will be between 11th and 12th grade. So that's going to be a very important timeline, because you're doing a lot of work, your junior year, you're focusing on your grades, but you're also trying to get involved. You're also trying to worry about where am I going to apply, but then you're also going to be applying and writing personal statements. So anytime we tell students, they ask me, Sandy, when should we start planning for college? You should start as early as freshman year, yes, but really, 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 probably the summer right after junior year. So that would be like June or July, right after you finish your junior year. That's when you start that process. Any questions? Okay. So we'll talk now about the CHESP. Is anyone considering that route? Okay. So I'll talk about it, pros and cons and all that good stuff. So just the facts about the exam itself. You need to be of 16 years of age. You want to be at least done with sophomore year to be qualified for the exam. The exam itself is about $162, so the fees vary depending on your registration date. And pretty much if you pass this exam, it's English or math. If you pass it, technically at 16 years of age, you are eligible to be done with high school and go straight to a community college. You're not able to go to any other type of college because you haven't finished high school. So the only place that you would be eligible for is a community college. So think about this now, that we have a student who just finished sophomore year and is going straight to a college setting. Just think about that. So we have some pros and then some cons, right? The pros of doing this, obviously you're finishing high school early, sure, so you're saving 2 years, okay. You might also have the option to do TAG. Has anyone heard of TAG? So TAG is like something called Transfer Admission Guarantee. I'll talk about it in some slides, but pretty much you as a student, if you're at community college, the second year at the community college, if you have a certain GPA, you could be part of TAG. TAG is partnered with 6 different UCs, the UCs of California, right, or Universities of California, and UCI is one of them. So if you were to say, I want to be part of TAG, I have a 3.5 GPA, TAG will say, okay, you apply to UCI. Since you're part of TAG and you're eligible for admission with UCI, you'll be guaranteed admission. So that's how they would kind of guide you to that pathway. So that's TAG. Work opportunities, sure, as a college student now, you're more exposed to different job settings, right, different employment opportunities. International coursework, so that is, I would say, the biggest pro when it comes to taking this CHESP. I've seen a lot of students who come from Dubai or from Egypt, and they've missed out on a year from high school. For example, I have a student who finished high school in Egypt. She wanted to come here. They told her, your last year and your senior year in Egypt does not count, so you have to redo it again here to finish high school. She didn't like that, so we actually went through the CHESP route, because then she could save that year and go straight to community college and then transfer. So she saved herself a year. That would be a great example of the CHESP working, but a lot of other students now are using it as, let me just save time. And what we're finding is, some of the cons now, is that they're not ready, they're not equipped with that college level courses, right, going to community college. They don't do well, they take longer to graduate from the community college because they're probably failing some classes, and then now their GPA is really low, because now you restart your GPA at a community college. And so that is where you want to be careful when you do that route. The only way I say I personally would support someone doing the CHESP, if they're self-motivated enough, have taken college classes before, and they're comfortable with college level courses, and then they'll go straight into that setting. So that would be as far as the pro behind it. And then other cons, of course, maturity level, just in general, being at a community college, are you ready to do that, and then staying accountable to transfer within 2 years. Okay, so then we talked about one route, right, the CHESP, and then we're going to dive into the application itself, and then within the application, the requirements for each institution. So as we all know, the basic requirements for any institution will be academics and non-academics, right? You have your personal qualities are going to be stemmed from most of the non-academics, right? So any of the leadership positions, your employment, internships, even just in general, the things that you're doing here at church or even at school, those are the involvements that you're part of, those communities that you're part of, right? That will make you have those personal qualities. You're going to be speaking about these or writing about these in your personal statements. So we definitely need to emphasize the personal qualities, because do you guys know that the SAT and ACT were eliminated, right? So because of that, a lot of the focus is on, well, what else has a student been doing besides doing well in school? And then you have your academic qualities. Yes, SAT and ACT have been eliminated, and we'll talk about the schools who don't require it right now. But the biggest thing I'll emphasize are going to be the honors and AP classes. Those vary based on your high school. So if your high school, that's another topic, I'm going to shift gear a little bit. So when you are looking at your high school, how many of you go to the same high school? Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Okay, good. The reason why, because if I had 2 seniors leaving the same high school, you will be competing with one another. And the reason why is the way any school at this point reviews your application is they look at your application and then they look at your high school profile. And they'll say, well, does your high school offer a certain amount of AP classes? Does your high school offer honors classes? Some high schools don't have that. So it won't count against you if you don't have as many AP courses. Versus someone who has 25 honors or AP classes offered at their high school, they will need to take advantage of those resources and more. So if you haven't seen your high school profile webpage, I would go today and check to see what that looks like and making sure your student takes advantage of those resources. When we're looking at the basic requirements academically for any student to pretty much leave high school, we know there's the A through G requirements, right? Those are the subjects that you have to take during high school. But that's just the minimum to graduate. You have 2 years of history, you have 4 years of English and whatnot. Okay, awesome. But we need to now see above and beyond leadership and initiation on your end. Meaning, if I require 2 years of history, I'm going to require now 4 years of that. I would want to see 4 years of that and maybe even an AP or an honors class in that subject if you do like that subject. Same thing with the other courses like science. If you know for a fact that your field is in the science, let's say you want to be a doctor, an engineer, any type of science-heavy career, then you definitely want to have 4 years of science and maybe even add an AP class. It's getting to that level where many students are taking these classes and they're boosting their GPA, making it super, super high, and then it boosts the average GPA as well. And I don't want to overwhelm anyone. There's ways to get this done. Okay, so anyone here has taken the SAT or ACT or planning to do it? Of course, Mark did. Anyone else? Okay, awesome. Do you guys plan on applying for private schools? Yes, okay, so that's good. Keep them. Keep the scores. Even if you want to take it again, go for it. The reason why I ask, because privates are still looking for them. Some of them are using for admission, and some are using it for merit-based. So it's just going to be based on the schools that you apply for. But please have that if it's an option. If your private is going to be on your list. But as we see here, SAT and ACT, the main differences here. If you are looking into the STEM-related majors, then also take advantage of taking the ACT because it has a science component. So it will help them also evaluate your application from that score. So here, yeah.
So how, you said like if you were looking to something to science, like how you said 2 more years of that
Yes.
in high school. You said you don't want to look into, but what examples, how can I, in high school, increase my science, like take what classes that's extra, like just the school offers it, or go outside to college?
Oh, I see. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. You could do both. So the school itself will have its own approved, they're called like the UC approved coursework that they could transfer over. So they have to look at their school itself to see if they're offering, let's say, in the sciences, if they're offering AP Physics. Some schools might not have AP Physics. Or in the math, AP Stats, or Pre-Cal, or even IB sometimes, Stats. Then you have the community college. The local community colleges are going to be another place where you can take, you can show them that you've been taking college level classes already, and that credit will be added to your transcript and could also be added to college credit. So it's like a win-win situation where I not only am I boosting my GPA in high school by taking a community college class, but if this class is required from me at a college, I might get credit for it, just like AP. Does that make sense? Okay. With the SAT and ACT, sorry, that orange box, it should be community college. Obviously, it's not required for the exams. The Cal States are completely not going to look at it. They're suspended from admission, so please do not submit it. The UCs are accepting it only based on scholarships. So if you're going to be applying for scholarships, sure, you can submit that score. And then privates, that's what I was telling you earlier, the admission. Some will do it for admission, some will do it for scholarships as well. So it just depends on the list that you have going on for schools. Oh, there it is. As far as those of you who are still freshmen and sophomores, this might be changed. It might be completely removed from the system. They really don't like the SAT, ACT right now. So they might remove them completely, but I know the privates, they have their own system. They don't really care about what the publics are doing, so they might still stick to, at least for merit purposes. Okay, how many of you are, yes?
So I wanted to ask about another slide that you showed a while ago about like private statements and letters of recommendation.
Yeah.
Are those applicable for everybody or just like do the UCs require?
No, the UCs won't require letters of rec. They will not. There is a component, though, within the UC and the CSU, something called EOP. EOP is for low-income first-generation students. They could use that as a reference for a letter of a recommender, and then that would be the only time you need a letter of reference for the UCs and the Cal States. Privates, definitely, some of them require still a letter of rec, and then, yeah, scholarships, yeah. Okay. So, how many people are involved? And what? Let's look at sports, music. What are we doing? You can just yell them out loud. It's fine. I'm not gonna pick on you, I promise. Sports? What kind of sport? Track. Nice. And how long have you been doing it? So 2-3 years? 3. See, so that's awesome. Very consistent. So the reason why I asked how long, because consistency is going to help a lot as far as showing that passion and commitment to that sport. Another thing I'll ask you, did you change your role within that dynamic as far as like you were a member and then now you're a leader? Oh, so you're the ranking. Awesome. Good. So that helps a lot. Yeah, so as long as you're doing something, let's say you started as a freshman, but I need to see growth in that leadership, whether it's you become the VP or you opened your own organization or you now have led some type of secretary role. That will help us show that you take your roles seriously and you like to commit and become a leader within your own community. So you could do that in any setting. It doesn't have to be in your high school. It could be another sport-related event outside of the class or an internship that you're doing. How many of you have shadowed anyone within their career? So this is probably the one thing that I mean, it definitely surprises me that people haven't really done it because it's free, you know, it's within your community and there's no application behind it. So if you know someone in your community, for example, an uncle or a aunt, right? They're doing something that you want to do. Let's say you want to be a dentist, right? And you know someone who's a doctor in your church or within maybe your family, your friends group, your moms and parents, your parents' friends. You can easily ask the person who's a professional, hey, can I shadow you for one day? Or can I have an informational interview? That's going to give you direct exposure to the environment. And then you can decide if I want to do it. By 1 or 2 days, a week max, just to understand if this is something I want to do. You would be amazed about how many people, if they were exposed now, they would turn away and say, I don't want to do this. Versus going after 8-10 years of degrees and all that, and you're like, yep, this is not what I signed up for. So please try to expose yourself as much as you can to confirm your major and your career choice, really. But these are some examples that you could do outside of the classroom if you're struggling to understand what else to be involved in. Okay. So as we dive into now the requirements for each school, we're going to dissect each system as far as what the requirements are. So how many people are going to be applying for the publics? I'm assuming most of you. And then the privates? Any Ivy Leagues? Okay. What happened? Oh, Ivy Leagues are like the top 25 schools, like Harvard, for example, Cornell, or Yale, or Stanford. Those are the Ivy Leagues. Okay. Did I mention? I didn't even mention where I went. I didn't. Okay, so I went to Cal State Fullerton for undergrad. I did my major in psychology and a minor in human services. And then I went to USC for my master's in educational counseling. So if you have any questions about either of those schools, I'm more than happy to help. And I also work at Pepperdine University, so another school that you would, if you're interested in. And I've worked at other schools as well, so again, just let me know. I'm sure I can assist you in those ways. But as far as the CSU system, we have 23 of them in California. They're all scattered. You would have probably the closest to you is Northridge? Northridge? Okay. So yeah, Northridge will be within your eligibility index, meaning their local numbers that they look for, they're going to look at students within their area. So you all are within their area for admission, to be eligible for admission. It doesn't mean you'll get accepted, but if you're eligible for admission, you're pretty much guaranteed. And I'll show you something in a bit that they talked about. Any questions about the CSUs? CSUs have their own requirements like every other school. If you notice, their GPA requirements is a bit lower than the rest of them. But that 2.5 is not really the 2.5 that's going to get you in. Yes, it's where they start, but I definitely haven't seen a 2.5 in a while be accepted or be admitted. Right now, for the impacted CSUs, and we'll talk about what impaction is in a bit, but those are the ones that have so little seats to offer, but they're getting so many applications. That makes them impacted. So with that being said, any Cal State right now, you want to be within like the 3.6, 3.8 range for your GPA. But those are for the impacted campuses, and I'll tell you more about those in a minute. They don't require the SAT or ACT, so please don't submit those. And they don't have personal statements. So what are they going to be looking at? Really just grades, your transcripts, really. And they don't even have an area in their application to talk about your extracurricular activities. So really, it's going to be focused on honors, AP classes, transcripts. What are you doing, right? Academically, at least. With the CSU impaction, so impacted campus is different when it's impacted at a major. So an impacted campus just means it's impacted everywhere, meaning let's say this church is impacted, meaning we have 100 seats in this church, but there's about 500 people outside waiting to be seated. So this church becomes impacted. That same applies for an institution where a campus can be impacted, but across all majors as well. So the ones that are impacted at the freshman level and major, all those schools on the left there are going to be impacted. So that GPA that I was telling you between 3.6 and 3.8 should be more than a 3.8 if you can. And then the impacted at freshman level only, those you have a chance of definitely getting in since the major is not impacted. Some majors will be impacted, some will not. By the way, this data just came from the 2022 CSU conference. So if you want to take pictures of this, I would probably do that. I don't have this in any other publication. And then on the right side, this is new to me. I've never seen this, the CSU at least do it, but they said that any of the ones on the right there, if you apply and you are eligible for admission, they will guarantee admission, pretty much. So it could be your plan C even. If you have a plan A and a plan B, awesome. Have a plan C just in case you don't get accepted in your top two. And those are going to pretty much take you. Question?
No, I'm just saying for San Diego and California, they're doing a thing right now where if you get accepted into one, they'll reject.
Really? No. They're like have a partnership going on.
Kind of. It's like rumors, but everyone that I know that have applied already.
Yeah. So you said SLO and Pomona?
No, SLO and San Diego.
San Diego's, wow, they're like far apart too. Okay, I also will add on to that something called the redirection, where if a student gets rejected from all the classes they applied for, they will get redirected to a non-impacted campus for admission, which is one of those as well. So that's the way they kind of like move people around. But thank you for adding that. All right, so that was the CSU. And I'm going to talk about the major differences between the UCs and the CSU in a bit, but mainly just tell you about the requirements. The UCs, we have also 9 of them in California. We're lucky to have all these schools, by the way. There's so many. They're also going to be a bit different when it comes to the requirements, right? So the GPA, as you notice, is a 3.0. That's definitely not anymore the case. You definitely want to have at least now a 3.8 or above, maybe even a 4.0 if you can. It is getting very competitive to get in. But I believe in all of you because I know that you're here today for a reason, so you are well prepared for it. As far as AP and IB exams, heavily focused, we're looking at AP credit as well, meaning I took an AP class, sure, but I want you to take the AP exam and pass it. That's going to give you AP credit to have towards high school and potentially towards college. Then your personal statements. Those are going to be the biggest difference from any other application is the PIQs, the personal insight questions. So the UCs will give you 8 different questions or prompts, and they'll say, hey, we need you to answer 4 of them and 350 words each. And that's going to be like your essay equivalent for the application. So that's one big part of the UC application. And then you have your extracurricular activities. They have up to 20 different sections or slots that you can talk about your personal statement, not personal statements, your extracurricular activities. The biggest thing with the UC's application, when they review your application, it's a holistic process. They don't just look at your grades and say, okay, we're not going to admit you. They definitely look at your grades, your personal statements, your volunteer, your leadership, AP classes, honors, any additional comments you added in the application, because they'll have room in the application to add comments. You can add that there. And they look at it, okay, this is a whole person here. Let's see if they're fit for our school. So that's how they review it versus the Cal States, which is said it's going to be very focused on the transcripts. Questions? Yeah.
So I think you touched on that Cal State University. What's your thoughts on community college and heading to community college for the first couple of years to get all GPs out of the way if you don't know? Knowing what you know now and what you've done, and I know you went to Cal State directly, what are your thoughts about going directly from high school to community college for 2 years
Yeah.
and then transferring?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I will talk about the last route, which will be the community college, and we'll dissect all that. So thank you for that. But I do have my opinions on it because my own brother went to the community college system. So yes, I have my opinions about it. So when we talk about the PIQs, we have the prompts. There's all 8 of them here, and you'll pick 4 of these. What I always tell students is don't let the prompt pick you. You let the experience pick the prompt. So if you have a significant experience, a set of them actually, not dissect, I keep saying that word, evaluate your experience and then look at what prompt is actually asking about that experience. And then you can brainstorm your essay from there. Do you guys know which prompt is the least answered? He was like, ready. You want to take it? No, actually. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's 8. So the question is, beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admission to the UCs? A lot of students say, oh, well, there's no specific prompt. They're just saying just add whatever you want to add to the application, so there's no point of answering this. But it's the best question you can answer, because then you can add anything you want that's about you that they haven't asked about. So for us, we have so much that we can talk about. For example, being Coptic, or just being Egyptian American, right? Or even identifying with all these different roles that you have within your community. So definitely look into what else have I not shown them through the application that you can add in this prompt. And I guess when it comes to the prompts itself, there isn't a prompt that's favoritized over the other. When I see counselors reviewing it, they definitely don't favoritize either. You want to make sure when you're reviewing these and writing all of these, you have someone that you can trust and can understand your voice throughout this process. So you are shown, and you're striving, and you're just generally showing your personality through these apps, because you have all these numbers that you're going to provide to them, right? All the grades and all that. But then what this person, how can they be an added value to our campus, right? This is, I hope it's not too blurry, yeah. Okay, so this was the rubric that the UCs shared with us at the UC Council Conference. And they said, tell your students, these are the non-academic and the academic items that we look at as far as when we look for admission. So take a look at this list and kind of evaluate really what they're looking for. Notice they re-added actually the location of school. They took that away and they re-added it again. So this goes back to the demographic location that you're at. What's the closest UC for you guys? Riverside? Okay, so UCR, yeah, UCR. UCR, you would be within their local geographical location to help you get accepted into their school. So if your high school has, let's say, their top 10 students guaranteed admission to UCR, they're probably going to have that. It's a pipeline dedicated to make sure your local students are going into their local UC. So that is something that they consider. So if we had a student who lived, let's say, in the Bay Area, who applied to UCI and applied to Berkeley, they'll probably more likely get in or considered for Berkeley than UCI because they're within the local geographical area. Notice on the left side, they talk about the quality of your senior year. That's important. They want to see how you juggle different things now that you're working on the application, your personal statements, your leadership positions, obviously your classes and excelling in those academically, and any other roles that you play, like say you have a sibling or you have a family member, whatever that looks like. They want to see how you've managed all that your senior year. So some data from this past conference that I went to, UCI, for example, notice how many applications they received last year, about 119,000, and then they only admitted 25,000. And from the wait list, they admitted about 4,800. So those numbers are getting lower and lower, but their admit rate is pretty high still, 21%. So that's UCI. For UCLA, let me just double check. Oh, UCLA also added, they wanted us to let you know that these are their top 10 schools, top 10 majors that are becoming really impacted at the first year level. So if you're going to be applying to any of these, please make sure this is your first choice, because they said if you apply with a second choice and you're not fit for that first choice, they will give you admission for that second choice. And a lot of students apparently don't like their second choice and they end up trying to change that. So make sure that you are okay with the first and second choice when you're applying, for UCI at least. For UCLA, the numbers went up drastically from last year. That number used to be 95,000. Now it's at 149,000. It's a lot. And imagine each application, you're writing 4 personal statements for each application, and it's reviewed by 2 people. From the 150, only about less than 13,000 actually got accepted. And then you had your waitlist numbers. They've admitted only about 372 of those. So the way this works is a school will get, let's just say, 200,000 applications. And then they can only take 5,000. So that makes it a very difficult process for them. They will select the top, let's say, the top 20%, and then the 20% will either decline or accept their offer. From that 20%, only 10 accepted. Then they will take the next 20% and so on. But there's a majority that are waitlisted waiting to find out if they're going to get accepted from the top 20. They wait on the top 20 first to make their decision, and then they move forward with the waitlist. That's why we're getting a lot more waitlisted students, because they're eligible for admission, sure, but we can't give you a seat until we figure out if other people are going to accept our offer. So if you're waitlisted, that's a great thing. If anything, I feel like you got in, but they just don't have a seat for you. So that's one thing. It's a bonus for you. UCLA's majors, this is another kind of the data that they wanted to report per department, how many they're admitting and their admit rate. If you notice, the admit rate for UCLA was less than 10%. It's at 9%. It's worse than USC. So it's getting difficult for us to, I gave you these numbers for you to understand what work you need to put into this and how are you going to stand out from that pool, really. Nothing discouraging because you're here, so you have time to work on your academics and your extracurricular activities. All right, so we talked about the CHESP, we talked about the CSUs, the UCs. The biggest difference between the CSUs and the UCs, really. Anyone now more favoritizing either track? Who wants to go to a UC versus a Cal State? Okay, what about the Cal State versus the UC? Really? Cal States are awesome. Okay. So the biggest difference, I might change your mind after this. I'll ask the question again. So for the Cal States, their schools, they're known to have smaller campuses, in size at least. Even their classes are smaller. You have professors, would be maybe like 30 to 40 students per professor. You have, their curriculum is definitely more focused on hands-on experience. So you apply what you learn, which helps you prepare you for the workforce. That's their whole vision when it comes to the CSUs. And obviously less competitive to get in, but it's now getting more and more difficult to get in when it comes to the impacted campuses at least. So that's the CSUs. And then you have your UCs. The campus itself will definitely be larger in size. The classes also might be more large depending on the major, the general education class, and all that. A seminar class can have between 100 and 150 students. So that could be a big difference in the learning experience. And then your curriculum. Your curriculum is going to be more focused on research. They do love research because their faculty are also conducting research as full-time researchers. So that's just the biggest difference when it comes to that. And of course tuition, we'll talk about it in a minute, but tuition can make a difference. But to me, money never really makes the decision because you can get scholarships and all that, FAFSA, but don't ever make a decision based on how much money you're going to have to pay. That's one thing I'll give you as far as advice. Real quick, I want to go over a case study. I'm not going to dive too much into this, but I wanted to show you a typical application that a UC would get so you understand what they look for. On the left there, you have the applicant summary. Just look at those things that they report. And then on the right side, they have the high school profile. Remember how we said they look at the high school profile? They have everything they need to know about your high school on that right side. So they take that in consideration for sure. You notice that high school is offering about 25 different AP/honors classes. That's a lot. This person specifically had a pretty good GPA as far as within that range I was telling you about, 3.6 unweighted, so that's still good. And then you have the honors. They look at how many honors classes and the AP exams that they took. In detail, they look at the grades that they received per class. And then if you notice, this person took a lot of AP courses, and the last 2 years they've been taking AP classes and doing very well in them. Then they look into their extracurricular activities and see how their commitment looked like as far as the breakdown of hours, their role, how many years they were doing it, how many hours they were doing it for. So that's another thing that they take down. These are all their notes, by the way, from just one applicant. And then their employment, where they were working, and this person was working for 4 years. Then they looked at their additional comments that they put in the application. For example, this person talked about his dad being deported, talked about needing an EOP resource, and also in the additional comments, looks like he talked about his dad again, and then about his household dynamic. And then the PIQs. They took the PIQs and added new information from each question. So if you notice the first question, he talks about his father only achieving 6th grade of education, so he's definitely a first-generation student. The second one, he talks about a significant challenge, how his father was deported, so this father is a very significant person in his life. Number 3, he talks about an academic subject that he really likes, his history. And then number 4, he talks about, again, his mom and overdose and other living situations with his mom. So as you see, every single part of the application provided something new for me to learn about this student. And that was a very holistic process. Questions on that?
It sounds fishy that first generation student, meaning that the parents did not learn here in the States, even though they had like master's or bachelor from Egypt, or so they're considered first generation.
So I'll take myself for example. Both my parents have a bachelor's degree from Egypt, but they never got any more degrees here. I'm now a first-gen student. My brother is also first-gen. We're within the same generation, so we're considered both first-gen. But if the parent got a bachelor's degree from Egypt and came here and got like a master's degree, no. Because now you know what the system looks like. What first generation really is, they put this term to label a student if they see that the student does not have a role model in their household to help them with the education system. So you become a first-gen student. That's what it gives them like an indicator that you're going to need additional support and income.
This is a benefit for the student?
Yeah, first-gen helps a lot. So if you are considered first-gen, definitely always mention that in their personal statements. I'm a first-generation Egyptian American. That's a huge statement right there. Yeah. Okay. With the application process, most of these schools, they start their application in October, November, not they start, but they're available in those months. You would apply the last day of November. And then when it comes to just the basic timeline, you apply, the last day of November. Some schools, if it's a private school, it might extend it to maybe even December, especially the private schools. And then after that, you won't hear from them until probably March or April as far as being admitted. Sometimes even February, depending on the school, but most of the time it's going to be March, April. And then you as a student would need to send, it's not on here, I guess not, would need to send your your admission decision by May 1st. So that's something that you need to have done before then. If you're waitlisted, that's going to be a struggle. Some students, I haven't received admission until almost the start of school, not the start of school, but going to summer, and they're like, I don't know if I'm in or not. So that's annoying. If you're waitlisted, you definitely want to keep in touch with the school if that's the case. I'm going to just really real quick to talk about the privates, and then we have the community colleges. So with the private schools, they have their own platform and their own applications called the Common Application. Their GPAs are going to, yes, start at 3.0, but honestly right now, like I was telling you, everything needs to start at least at 3.8 or above. And then very similar to the UCs, they require the AP and IP exams. Of course, the personal statement will be required, but in this one, instead of 4 personal statements, you're writing only 1, and 1 is going to be 650 words. And that's going to be your personal statement. For any private school that you apply for, it's 1 for all of them. Now, some of them will have their own supplemental questions. So they'll say, hey, maybe add another 250-word question. So that would just be for the privates. And then some of them will also require a letter of rec, depending on the school. So USC, that's an example of a private school. Here's their profile. If you see, their acceptance rate is at 13%. So UCLA was lower than that. And then here are the prompts for the Common App. And this would be a question that USC would ask as a supplemental question. You pick one of those. All right, so this is private. The biggest difference between the public and private obviously is the tuition, but you also focus more on, there's definitely more focus on aid and opportunities for students, especially merit-based versus income-based. A lot of the privates will have that funding for scholarship purposes. Okay, community college. All right, so how many of you think that the community college route is a no-go? It's not. the best route. Good. It's a good option. It's definitely a good option. So back to your question earlier, it's actually one of the schools that has the most support for a student when it comes to helping them succeed, because they know the students that go to these community colleges need such support, so they push them to transfer out. So they actually have a lot more funding for those at the community college to do well and have programs for them to transfer out. Nothing about them having a less educational quality of instruction because they have, a lower cost. It's not correlated at all. If anything, the staff at the community college get paid the highest compared to a private or a public school. So it is a big misconception when it comes to the quality of instruction and the type of students that go there. If anything, I've had someone from our church, he wanted to go to USC, UCLA, all these great schools. He had a 4.0 GPA that still didn't get accepted. He had to go to a community college. So that could be a student who literally just got rejected from the UCs. And we're seeing a lot of that because of what happened with the SAT and ACT being eliminated. So what happened was a lot of students were scared of the SAT and ACT. So they said, well, now that it's not required, I can apply. And we got so many applications. So because, remember how I was telling you the UCLA went from 95,000 to 150? That's the reason why we saw that influx. But that also didn't help with admission. We got more and more people rejected. Where are they going to go? So they're either going to go to their plan B or just go to their local community college, save money, and then transfer out to their actual dream school. And as far as the community college goes, there is a lot of options within your local area. I'm sure you'll have at least 2 or 3 options to pick from. The biggest thing right now with going to any school is to make the best out of the resources that are provided to you. So if it's a community college or if it's USC, what are you going to do about your experience there? So that is one advice I'll give you. It's not about the school, it's about what you do with that education. And then when you're at the community college, they have different, requirements. They're equivalent to the 8th degree requirements, but for now community college, if you want to specifically go to a UC or a CSU. If you look here, the UCs have their own 7-course pattern, and the CSUs have something called the Golden 4. You will get these done eventually. It just needs to be done if you know for a fact you'll be going to the CSU versus the UCs. So just work with your counselor at the community college, and she will help you. He or she will provide you something called the I-Gets-You form, and that will help you become eligible for either track. And then they use something called assist.org to ensure that the classes that you're taking at the community college transfer over. Yes?
So do you encourage those who want to go to community college, like CSUN and right?
I would encourage it for many reasons, but I also want the person to be real with themselves. For example, if I know I'm going to do very well in high school, I'm going to get the grades, I'm going to be involved, I know that I will exceed expectations, I will still apply to the UCs and Cal States and privates. Have the community colleges as a backup. Now, there would be another situation where I would encourage it with a student who doesn't know what they want to do. Like, for example, I don't know what I want to major in, or I'm struggling to find my passion. Okay, fine. I'll give you 2 years at the community college to test it out, take the general education classes, and then maybe you'll gain more exposure to a subject that you like. But keep in mind, every school you go to, Harvard or community college, the first 2 years are going to be the same. It's just general. It's just the general difference is obviously who's teaching. If you're working with a faculty member who's doing research, or you're working with just a Cal State individual, maybe just a teacher that's part-time. Are you working with an adjunct at a community college? So that will be the biggest difference, is the quality of instruction and the money aspect of it.
Yeah, so if I can save money to go for community college, does it save me time to do seat if I want to transfer?
Remember how I was saying money shouldn't be your deciding factor, because a person who is doing well academically will not pay for anything at their private school or even the UCs. So that's another thing too. It depends on your income as a household. If you guys make too much money and you're not going to be qualified for scholarships or FAFSA, then yes, I would for sure look into the community college. But if you know your student is a high-performing student, very well eligible for scholarships, and has just done an amazing job to deserve a spot at the private, let's try that first, and then if not, we'll look at the community college. Yeah, it's always a plan B. I wouldn't put community college as a plan A, just because I want you to still try to make it at the 4-year. It's easier that way, because then once you make it at the 4-year, you don't have to transfer again. You're there for 4 years, and you're building a community that you're learning in a nice environment to where it's a holistic kind of process. You start and you end in one place. That's what I would imagine being a perfect journey. I did that myself, so let me talk about my brother real quick. I went to Cal State Fullerton straight. I was there for 4 years. It helped me personally to stay motivated because I needed to be there for 4 years to understand, okay, my timeline. It would have stressed me out more if I had to be there at a community college for 2 years and then replan a timeline to apply again and go to a 4 year. So that's just a personal preference. My brother, for example, he went from IVC, in Saddleback, and then went to Cal State Fullerton. He followed my footsteps, but just because he really loved Fullerton too, not just because I went. And then he was there for about 3 years now, and he's about to graduate this fall. So with him, he really never loved school. It wasn't of passion for him. He's very smart, but he just doesn't like school as much. And so we told him, okay, you know what, go to IVC, take those 2 years, figure out what you want to do. He was eligible for FAFSA still, so that was not a problem. He didn't have to pay. And then when he went to Fullerton, he also didn't have to pay. So all that was covered under FAFSA, and he finally got his degree. So it just depends on the student and, your preference. You have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to follow. After going to, let's just say, the 2-year, community college at the beginning,
Yeah.
the data or stats to show now transferring to UC versus Cal State and what that is like versus coming straight from high school going to university?
Oh, like the retention rates and graduation rates?
Yeah, in terms of getting accepted now to
Oh, yeah.
a UC
Mhm.
or Cal State versus straight from high school.
Yeah, so he's talking about the rates of first-year student versus a transfer student. It is higher to get accepted as a transfer than a first year. The likelihood of getting accepted to USC, for example, or UCLA as a transfer student is higher than a first-year student. So that's one advantage, but don't rely heavily on that either, just in case you're deciding between going there for the first time or as a transfer. But yes, it is likely that you would be qualified for admission as a transfer student. The rates are higher. They have a certain quota they have to meet for first-year transfer students and international students as well, and graduate students. Okay, I'm going to skip this since we talked about it, and then we talked about that. Okay. Any questions on the admission process? We talked about admission. We talked about all the different routes to get yourself at the college. Anything from that? Okay, so now we'll talk about aid and how to pay for school and scholarships. Every school has its own price tag when it comes to tuition, but that doesn't mean you have to pay that price. There's a lot of ways to pay it, so please bear with me on this. When it comes to the community college, they are the cheapest, yes. This is also, by the way, the per year rate. And then you have your CSUs around $7,000 a year, the UCs around $15,000, and then the privates are going to be up to $72,000, sometimes $75,000, depending on the school. Most of the time, 90% of this is paid if you do it right. So please, please, please know that. The books and supplies. So the first row is what you really want to worry about as far as paying the school to go there. Everything else is going to be up to you and your budget and all that. Books and supplies, if you have solid friends, they can help you get books. If they have their own books, they can lend the ones that they use for college. So that could be a resource. You could use Amazon. I use this one website called slugbooks.com. When I was an undergrad, I loved it because it would give me, if I'm looking for a book, It would give me all the platforms they're selling this book for the cheapest price, whether it was used or rented. So it's called slugbooks.com. Mark, I'll tell you about it. But it is the best for books, at least. Then you have the room and board, housing. Who's going to live on campus? Okay, so for,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I heard that some schools have a requirement for
Yeah.
first year dorm and
Yeah.
some don't.
Yes.
Do you have that information?
I don't have for on here, but if you have your top 10 schools, we can definitely look into it to see which ones. Most of the privates, honestly, none of the publics. I know Oxy, for example, requires it for the first 3 years, and then I feel like USC does the first year as well, but I can double check on that. Yes, they'll have it on their housing webpage. They'll tell you what the requirement is. And they do that just to create a community for that first year student as they transition. So back to housing. Obviously, community colleges don't have it except for one community college, which is OCC. And then we're looking at CSUs between 12,000 and 13. The UC is about 14, and then the private's about 15 or so. That all depends on the meal plan and the housing situation. For example, do you want a roommate? Do you want to have a single room? Do you want to live in a quadruple? Do you want to eat 4 times a week, 5 times a week? What does that look like? So that will depend on the meal plan and the housing. Transportation, that's your commuting. If you're going to be living on campus, you might not have to worry about gas, but if you're going to commute back and forth, that might be an expense. I commuted to Fullerton 30 minutes each time, but gas prices were fine back then, but it was ideal for a college commute for 30 minutes. And then personal expenses. So yeah, just want to worry about that first row. But again, if you do it right, 90% of it, almost 100% should be paid. So with need-based and merit-based, FAFSA would be a perfect example of something that is based on need, based on income. But then merit-based will be based on your transcripts, accomplishments, SAT, ACT scores, any of that tangible items. All right. When we're looking at a school or FAFSA, evaluating the financial need of a student, they look at the cost of attendance of the school, right? And then how much your parents make or the household size. That will give them an understanding of how much aid they should be giving you, right? So let's, for example, put UCLA as an example for school. UCLA is at probably $16,000 per year, and you have a household size of 4, and you guys all make about $100,000. So that is a perfect income ratio to household size, and you probably get 90% more than that paid for. We'll talk more about that, but that's not the cap or anything. That's just an example.
It has to be both parent income?
Yeah,
It can
both.
be on one income?
Well, if the person is living with both parents and both parents are providing for this student, then both parents have to provide the income, yeah. So FAFSA is an umbrella it's an application, and it's an umbrella that provides all 4 of these: your grants, your loans, scholarships, and work study. We'll talk about these in a bit here. I won't go too much numbers, but just know the 3 of them are free, and 1 of them you have to pay back. Which one do you have to pay back? The loans, right? You have subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. The one that does not accumulate interest will be subsidized. So if I take out 1,000 today and I graduate after 4 years, that 1,000 should remain 1,000. But if I take the unsubsidized loan, it could go up to 1,200 with the interest that accumulates. It just depends on the interest rate. So that's going to be loans. And then you have private loans. You could do that. That's up to you and your parents if they want to take out a private loan like from the bank, like Wells Fargo. And then when it comes to free money, you have your grants, your scholarships, and that work study. So grants, please take all the grants you can possibly get. If you get them, just take them. Don't question them, just take them. You won't have to pay those back. Typically, they're about 80 to 90%. If you are eligible for FAFSA and you're considered low income, typically 80 to 90% is covered. And then your scholarships. So scholarships there's a lot of ways to get a scholarship. It's actually very cool. because you can get it from the school, you can get it from an external company, or you can get it through applying for FAFSA. So when I applied to Fullerton, for example, I was eligible for FAFSA. I also got the university grant, and I got the EOP scholarship. So 3 different ways from just applying for FAFSA. I didn't apply for anything else. So that would be something that you can get from the school in free money. You don't have to pay back. And then work study. Work study is money that they give you. It's in your letter saying, hey, we want to give you $3,000 in work study. That work study is the only way you get that money is by working on campus. So they say, hey, we want you to go find a job and we'll give you this $3,000 for the year. And a lot of employers on campus will hire you because you have work study. So it's a great deal. This is just for the community colleges. They have their own funding, so community college should be free for the first 2 years. I haven't seen a student pay for it unless you're international. That's a different story, but you should not be paying for community college. They have their own. The one thing I'll emphasize is the middle class scholarship, mainly for the CSUs. A lot of parents tell me, oh, we're not eligible for FAFSA, we're not going to apply. Please apply. You don't know what you're going to get, because something like the middle class scholarship, you see how it says the income is up to 177, so you just don't know what FAFSA will have for you to get. Also, because it's a first come, first serve application, the sooner you apply, the more money you would be considered for. So it's like a bucket of gold. Think about it that way. And then EOP, I was telling you about. This is the one where you need to be considered a first-gen student from low income, and they will help you through your first year. They have a lot of really good workshops throughout their first year to help you transition into that freshman year. Okay. So for the financial aid application itself, you want to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. So those are the 2 ways to be eligible just for the FAFSA. If you're not either of those, then you would apply for the California DREAM Act, which is for those who don't have papers and are like on asylum, or they just don't have papers, period. Then they can apply for this. They might need a working permit, though. They ask for that in the application. Going back to FAFSA real quick, keep in mind, anytime you apply for FAFSA, they're going to use your taxes from 2 years prior. So for fall 2023, those of you who are seniors, you're applying for fall 2023, you'll use your 2021 taxes. So please make sure your parents have access to those when you're applying. And then obviously, as you move forward, you always use 2 years prior to that. The application is available for you to start applying. October 1st is the first day. And then technically the deadline is March 2nd, but you can always apply afterwards if you need to. Don't wait until March 2nd. I would do it that first week of October, even because, again, it's a first come, first served basis.
Can you repeat that slideshow? Yes. No.
This one?
Yes.
Oh, and to top it off, we will have a virtual session on FAFSA in November 5th. We'll do a virtual step-by-step guide through the application. We'll actually help you apply. Your parent will have to be present. So if you want to be part of that, we'll have that online virtually. Okay, this is just an example that you get. So when you apply for FAFSA, this is in October, you don't hear back. You'll get an email confirmation that you applied, sure. And then in the application itself, you'll put the schools that you've applied for, you're going to apply for. Each school will get that application. Then they say, okay, let's say you applied to UCLA, UC Berkeley, and San Diego. All 3 schools will say, okay, we got your FAFSA application. By February, March, they'll send you something called Financial Aid Award Letter. And it's going to have a breakdown of what you as a student would get. Please keep in mind, this is not an admission. This is just saying if you come to our school, we'll give you this money, but that doesn't mean you got accepted. When it comes to the breakdown of this letter, you just want to go through it. Most time you're going to be going through it with your parent, or with a counselor of some sort, obviously, or with a CF counselor, not a problem. But you'll want to see all the free money that you get. So anything in blue here is all free money. You have your Pell Grant, state grant, and a scholarship from the school. Oh, by the way, this is a USC student. I've helped a student actually back in 2019, and he had a 4.26 GPA. He went to USC, and he was first-gen low-income student. So keep this in mind as you're reviewing his letter, because if you're looking at the Pell Grant and state grant, there was only about $15,000, but he got a full ride to USC based on his academics alone. So that's almost pretty much everything covered. He doesn't need to pay. Now, because he wanted housing, that makes a huge difference, because now it's from $57,000 to $70,000. So that $70,000, almost 60 something of it is paid for. And then if he's going to have housing to worry about, it's another maybe $15,000. In his case, I think his parents ended up paying $5,000 out of pocket. He didn't have to take out loans. So that was really good for him. Yeah, any questions on the award letter that you get? Okay. The UCs have their own. I would encourage you to go to their actual webpage and see what scholarships they have. Some of them will say, oh, you just need to apply to the UCs and we'll evaluate your application for a scholarship, and sometimes you actually have to apply for an individual one through their platform, their portal. And then we have our own, not coming up until April. So Robert will tell you about it when we launch it, but it will be in April, and then it won't be due until May 31st. So you have some time, a long time from now. So hopefully we see some applications. Like I was telling you, the breakdown of FAFSA, the timeline, when you should hear back. Again, just making sure you always check your email. Whatever email you use for FAFSA is the email you're going to get notified about all these steps. And just in summary, honestly, I said a lot of things today. So 2 things I want you to take away from this. If you don't have a professional resume, get that done. It doesn't have to be like all nicely done as far as like applying for a job, but at least have a list going on of the things that you've just been doing all throughout high school. And it's just a breakdown of your role, your description of your role, your title, how long you've been doing this, and how many hours you do per week. If you have that somewhere listed from the day you started high school, it will help you so much when you're applying for college. And then the other assignment I'll give you would be to have a solidified list of schools that you want to apply for, just to have an idea of where you want to go, and then encourage your parent or your sibling to take you to these schools. Those would be like the best things to do right now if you're like so lost. Okay? And this is what I was telling you about. Just an example. This is another resource called College Scorecard, which I do appreciate. If you just want to know more stats about the schools, you can look on here. But when you register for CF, remember I told you get publications? One of the publications, you're going to get a list of every university in California and their stats. So that will be included in the email. And then keep in mind, myself and Catherine, we review personal statements. So if you want us to review them, please just send it to our emails right there, and we'll try our best to get it done within 5 to 7 business days. And we do the individualized career counseling. That's why I keep bringing Mark up, because I'm working with him. We do that individual attention for a student who would like to work with a counselor their last year, or sometimes even before then if they feel like they need that support. It's up to you, the student, and the parent whenever they want to meet. The first hour typically is free for you. We just get to understand what your needs are, how we can support you. We create some type of plan. And then we start the hour sessions from there whenever you want to meet. It could be every 2 weeks, every month, depending on whatever you like. And then the actual price per hour is $150. So if you need that assistance beyond your high school counselor, we would love to help you with that. When it comes to publications, here are the 5 publications I was telling you about. You'll all get access to this if you've registered for our workshop today. 2 of them are printed. I gave them to Robert for you to have a hard copy of, but if you register, you'll get all of them virtually sent to you. but one of them actually has the UC campus tours, virtual tours. I'm going to skip this because I don't know if we're doing it. And then, yeah, pretty much this is it. This is the last slide. Thank you so much for being here and being present. I want to take a picture of all of you. We do it for our social media, but I don't take pictures of your face for confidential reasons. I take it from your back. So if all of you can shift to the right, and I'm going to take it, if you're going to take it as if I'm talking to them, and just take it from the back, like their foreheads. So, do you know? Yeah? Sorry, so that way we have people in social media, you'll be all tagged. So I'm going to make it seem like I'm talking to you guys. Because Hanny, our social media dude, he was the one who's like, make sure you get pictures, we need to see this. So yeah. And I think we have, thank you, yeah. Let us know when you're ready, Robert. Sorry. Okay. Okay, wait. So, ready? So I'm talking about the college application. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? I think that's the best time for it now. So we don't give this out, but everything that we talk about is in the publications, I promise, and more. So, yeah. You took the picture, yeah? Awesome, yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
I have a question for the new enrollment for our kids we take in high school right now.
Yeah.
If this step down from the high school, from the Moorpark College,
Yeah, so I'm going to show you some
like how
resources.
many units they still need for Moorpark College?
So when we look at dual enrollment, a school can provide extra credit towards their GPA in high school if they take community college classes, right?
Yes.
So that's one credit. And then when you go to the college, if this specific course was available for them at the college, then they would also get college credit. So it's almost like a win-win for the student and for the high school GPA. I have this resource up for you because it's important to know what's approved to get transferred to the college. So for example, let's put here a school name. Give me what is it?
Simi High.
S-E-M-I?
Yes. It's I-M-I. Simi High.
I feel like this is for the school. Tell me one second here. Okay.
Are you looking for high school?
Is it this one? First one?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. So what I went to the approved A through G course list. So this is only for the UCs, by the way. So the UCs have this dedicated to help the student understand if the classes that they're taking will be transferred over to the UCs, right? So we pulled up your high school. We go to the course list. You notice how the A through G classes are listed there. So at your school, looks like they have these classes as AP credit. And they would get college credit if they were to take this class. So this is one way to understand if a class is transferred. Another platform for the community college, it's called assist.org. And this is to figure out if a class from the community college is transferable to the college. Does that make sense? Community college to college. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then same thing here. You put, let's say, which community college is it? Moorpark. Okay. And what school would you want it to go to transfer? Poly Pomona? Okay. So if we're looking, I don't know, let's look at, well, it's by department. We can look at, let's say, bio. So if they've taken, let me make this bigger. So if they've taken, let's say they went to Moorpark on the right there, they've taken Intro to Bio MO1, that would be equivalent to the life science there at Pomona. So that would tell you they would get credit for that class at Pomona. But versus other classes here, the first 3 there, those are not offered at community college, so they would not be transferred in. That's like the dual aspect of it. It's a lot of work. All you want to do is talk to the counselor from high school and talk to the counselor from the community college. They will know all this. Or if not, just talk to me.
Okay, to be graduated from, if you decide to go to Moorpark College
Yeah?
and transfer to Cal Poly,
Mm-hmm.
how many units you need to, how many units from Moorpark College you transfer? 60
Yeah.
or 35?
60 transferable units, always. Yeah.
60?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. Which is 2 years equivalent.
sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So the advice when they are in high school, they think some community,
Yeah, definitely.
that's what count.
That's what I'm saying, making sure that it will count, looking at assist.org, because you want to make sure those classes are going to transfer over. Yeah. Or talk to your counselor and she'll tell you. Yeah.
But if he takes 35 units while he's in high school right
Oh,
now,
yes.
then it's gonna be.
Then it would help him.
That means gonna help save at least 1 year to go straight to.
Yes, but be careful. Some of the 4-year schools have a cap as to how much they could do outside of the school. Like for my example, my brother, he was a transfer student, but he capped at, I think it was 90 credits. He can't take anything more than that at the community college to transfer over to Cal State Fullerton. So there's always a cap, and so just be careful with how much they take. 35 should be still enough.
No, I think she's talking about saving the number of years in the community college if you take some of the community credits during high school.
Right, so the dual enrollment aspect of it. I don't know what the cap is, to be honest. I don't know if 35 minutes would be a lot, but double check with his high school counselor and she'll tell you what the agreement is. Yeah, because there could be a cap. You could have, yes, the GPA go up, yes, but then maybe those college credits we're not going to transfer over for whatever reason. Maybe they don't have that class available. So it just depends on the high school and the college that they're going to be attending.
And just because it's transferable doesn't mean that it's going to take away off classes in the 4 year, right?
No, yeah. It would just count towards their GEs, really.
Like the AP classes, for example, just because they took an AP class doesn't mean that it's going to
You have to take, you have to take the AP exam to get the credit.
And even if they take the AP exam, does that mean that it will definitely take off some?
Depending on the course, like psychology, for example, AP Psych, if they've taken AP Psych and they take the exam and they pass it, they might get rid of the Psychology 101 course at the college.
Yeah. I heard
Mark, what were you saying?
Sometimes you have to, like, you have to retain the AP classes, not all AP classes that you take at the point. All AP classes that you take at past, it doesn't just go through, it depends on the course.
The course, yeah. So like psychology is definitely one of those common ones that they can count. Bio, depending on bio, but yeah. Okay, so that's a good question. Any other questions?
Does website go from high school and you can compare it to like a community college to see what classes?
High school, community college.
Like if you take a class.
Didn't we just do that? That we did that for the UCs. No, this is college to college. Yeah.
And when they are in sophomore, you said they can go to the university, says
Yes.
just go.
Well, yes, good question. They can definitely do the exploring on themselves, but there's also virtual tours and they have on-campus tours as well. So if you go to their perspective on their website, under prospective student, let's take one for example. What's the school you want to go to? UCLA? So I just put UCLA campus tours, okay, and then I got the first link there. They have virtual ones. This is for transfer students, but they have them on campus. They have online, on campus too, and that's great. And they have an in-person group one. So you can pick either of them. Let's say you want to go on campus by yourself, and then you can schedule it, and you and the student can go. So it's nice to have that. I do like it. I think CF should invest in doing those, like field trips for students. I might look into it. So, yeah. It's just a lot of money behind it in transportation, all that. So, yeah. Okay, these are all good questions. Anything else?
Psychology, you were studying psychology?
I did my major in psych and minor, but I was bio at first. I did bio for 2 years, and then my parents convinced me to be a doctor. And I was like, nope, that's not for me. I did a lot of internships. It was a nurse assistant. I was a dental assistant. Did optometry. I was just like, no, this is too much. And I wanted to help in a different way. I think that's what it was. So, yeah, psychology was my known major, and I'm not going anywhere else after that.
But you work in that field now, or
No.
just like what you do?
Well, because I got my master's in counseling, it gave me a different way of helping within the educational field, but I still use psychology because I still work, I taught a class at Pepperdine as their, one of their psychology classes, career development, so they needed a psych background, so it helped me to have that when I was applying. Psychology, though, could be used in your day-to-day life, like with my parents or with my sibling. You know, it's very, very applicable. Like, I apply it almost every day. It's just a matter of, Yanni, what do you want to do with psych? Because you could just have a bachelor's degree and it doesn't do anything. You need to always get some other degree after that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What made you choose Fullerton for?
I love that question. So, actually, I'm originally from Orange County, right? So the heavy focus is going to UCI. UCI is like the Harvard of Orange County for whatever reason. I don't know why. So that pressure was on for my parents and my friends to go to UCI. So what I did is I took the SAT at UCI just to expose myself to the, the campus. I really didn't see myself there as a student. It was too big of a campus for me. I almost got lost finding the SAT class. The type of people that go there wasn't for me. There was just a lot of no's that I was like, I don't want to be here. Then when I went to Fullerton, this is why I emphasize going to the campus. When I went to Fullerton, I went on a day where they had like a orientation going on for new students. And they had like tables, in their little courtyard. But I remember, walking to the campus and I could see the buildings and they were right in front of me. It's walkable. I could see it from a distance. I wasn't overwhelmed. The people, there was such student support. It was very student-centered where I felt like I belonged there. They wanted me there. So there was that approach. And I think it was just, I don't know, I think I needed to feel like I'm away from Orange County a little bit too, because I was always in Irvine. So I think I wanted to find myself somewhere else. And Fullerton was my second home. I would leave my house at like 7 in the morning, and I would not come home till 10 o'clock at night. Not because I wanted just to be at school, but I was working 3 jobs. I also was taking 15 units. I wanted Fullerton. Like, I wanted to be there all the time. And what helped a lot was my community of students. My friends, like the students there, the friends that I made, it was amazing. Like, I did feel like I definitely was one of them. So hopefully that helps you. I think just going to the campus helps a lot. Yeah. Cal State Fullerton, yeah. Yeah, Fullerton. Titans. We are the Titans. Did anybody go to Cal State Fullerton? Well, Mark, I'm going to have to put that on the list then. Yeah. It's a nice school. There's also, obviously, the CSUs. There's the Long Beach is also a nice school. I love UCLA. It's a nice and beautiful school, but I think, again, really big for me. So it goes back to the fit. Like, if I have my college kind of like, think about it as like not interview. I know this is too far-fetched, but think about it as like you're dating someone, right? What are the things that you want? So it's college, same thing. What are the things that I want from my college? Do I want to be next to the beach? Do I want to commute only 10 minutes? Do I want to commute an hour? Do I want to be in the snow all the time? So that's going to determine what the college would look like for you, and then select it from there. Obviously, the major choice is huge as far as like what you want to study. Some schools are known in this specific major versus another school. Like Pomona, Cal Poly Pomona, they're known for engineering. So that would be a school that you would want on your list if you're doing engineering. Oh, you want to do psych? Nice. What do you want to do with psych?
I don't know right now, but I'm taking psychology at school, so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you could teach, you could be a psychologist, psychiatrist, you could do research, like a PhD. You could do what I did, counseling, higher ed. So it's just a lot. There's a lot of options for sure. And what I like about psych is you could always add it as a minor or a double major if you're doing something in the medical field. They love to see that you know psychology going into the medical field. So, yeah. All right, well, I'm going to put my information here just in case. I don't have any files, but it might be in my car. Yeah. You're welcome.
You said there's a QR code for things, right?
Yeah. Oh, for these, no. These will be sent once they register. So that QR code is for registration. Yeah.
But I didn't register.
Did you register? You're a renter. You'll get.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll get the new ECC.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. No, it's okay. Yeah, no problem. You know, it's up to you. Like, if you want to test it out first, be like, okay, let me see what subject I like. Maybe it's psychology, maybe it's arts. Do that, and then see if you like that type of work. And then I would start looking into a class that you count for high school and you can count for college. If you can do that, it's beautiful. But of course, do something that you appreciate. It's going to be college level courses. You don't want to do bad either, you know? So find something that you really like and then take a class in it. But also speak to your counselor, your high school counselor. Be like, hey, heads up, I'm going to take this class. What can I do with it? Can I add it to my transcript, or can I just put it as a college credit for my application? So just give them a heads up that you're doing that. Okay. Yeah. Hi, you're so cute, really. Oh. Sure, yeah. Everything that you do outside of the classroom and more, it's going to be amazing. If you could be a leader, so take an initiative in doing something. Let's say you're doing Girl Scouts. You're just a Girl Scout, right? But if you can start ranking up and doing more leadership stuff, that's awesome. That's something you want to do. What do you like doing outside of school? Like your hobbies?
I like being part of the leadership activity.
Okay. Yeah. So find something you love and just strive in it. I don't want you to do something you don't like, because then it's not going to really. Yeah, there's no purpose behind it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course, no problem. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We have a scholarship that we added for Egyptian students, but it's a specific city in Egypt. I think it's Shubra. And they're giving, I want to say, $5,000 a year there. Dollars. So it's called the Tafawuk. You would have it's not for U.S. people. It's for those who are in Egypt. Oh, yeah. It's called the Tafawuk, though. So if you know anybody in Egypt that lives there, then tell them. Yeah. But you can apply for our scholarship. Yeah. Yeah. It launches in April. Robert, the CF mentor, will tell you when it launches. Yeah. Yeah. Hi.
I just wanted to say hi. How are you? Thank you so much for all your help. He just did it. He's been icing them really well. But yeah, today's the first day. Thank you so much for coming. I'm probably going to schedule you a chocolate about some stuff.
So,
Okay.
I don't even think we scheduled it. So, anything I'll text you.